Welcome to Tahiti, the ultimate Pacific queen. Subscribe now, before this paradise makes your wallet resign. You see luxury resorts, majestic peaks, and pristine lagoons. Tourists diving or kite surfing over crystal waters. But beneath this manufactured utopian fantasy lies a hilarious historical blunder. When the British arrived, locals simply said, "Oh, Tahiti," meaning, "This is Tahiti." Haha. The Europeans mistakenly recorded, "Oh, Tahiti," kicking off centuries of romanticized colonial illusions. They crowned it a harmless paradise, but the truth is darker. Look at this striking contrast between the shallow, safe turquoise lagoon and the unforgiving deep blue ocean. It perfectly mirrors the island's dual identity. Today, fleets of tourist boats flock here, chasing a highly sanitized version of island life, completely detached from the raw, violent nature. These curving overwater bungalows are actually a modern invention from 1967, born out of pure desperation by 3 American expats who spectacularly failed at running a vanilla plantation. They drilled concrete pillars straight into the living coral reef just to create a flawless, Instagram-worthy background for leisurely afternoon strolls on these pristine white sands. But the real Whenua, the sacred land beneath the shadow of Mount Otamanu, was never just a passive paradise waiting for wealthy tourists to arrive. These wooden branches spreading across the water are merely a modern layer of territorial control. In ancient times, absolute power flowed directly from the gods to the elites. Walking among these towering palm trunks meant navigating a fiercely stratified society of life and sudden death. This spiritual energy, known to the indigenous people as mana, was channeled through hypnotic, rhythmic rituals under the cover of the night. These wild warrior dances were not just for show or cheap entertainment. They were terrifying displays of dominance by the infamous Arioi cult. While they honored the god of fertility through massive spectacles, they paradoxically practiced ruthless infanticide to control population. It was a brutal but necessary mechanism for island survival. These feathered warriors remind us that behind every graceful movement lies a fierce, ancient discipline. The vibrant energy you see here is the surviving heartbeat of the resilient Ma'ohi people. Clashing sticks on a wooden stage echo the unyielding rhythms of their ancestors. Today, they proudly sing their own songs, keeping their indigenous identity alive against all odds. Meanwhile, Western capitalism continues to carve its V-shaped marks into the water, tearing through the sacred lagoon with loud, disruptive jet skis. These bizarre clustered domes floating on the sea are the ultimate symbol of how we package, price, and consume raw nature. It is a sprawling wooden octopus, slowly suffocating the very coral reef it claims to celebrate. The contrast is staggering. Artificial luxury sitting right beneath primordial, volcanic power. Every branch of these overwater villas represents a piece of the ocean heavily commodified, leaving only small, isolated strips of the true, untouched forest behind. A tiny boat drifting under the majestic mountain feels like a meaningless speck. Hidden beneath the canopy, the modern invasion is colorful but incredibly relentless. We literally build fake islands just to isolate ourselves from the authentic local world, pushing our extravagant bedrooms as far out into the deep blue as physically possible. Because, why swim in the unpredictable ocean when you can have a massive sanitized pool? The Queen of the Pacific is gorgeous, but heavily trapped. Look at these iconic overwater bungalows resting beneath the majestic Mount Otamanu, a wooden bridge leading into tropical escapism. These floating luxury villas, complete with private pools, completely define modern high-end tropical tourism. But against this dramatic backdrop of ancient volcanic ridges, they look almost like beautiful parasites. This sprawling resort complex curves along the turquoise water, aggressively claiming the fragile natural habitat, hiding their massive ecological footprint beneath the lush canopy of imported palm trees. This fishbone-shaped network of thatched roofs, stretching across the lagoon, is actually a surprisingly recent invention. Looking straight down at this perfectly symmetrical layout, it is hard to believe this architectural marvel was born out of pure desperation. In 1967, 3 American expats known as the Bali Highboys spectacularly failed at running a local vanilla plantation. Stranded on a tiny island with absolutely no sandy beaches for their struggling hotel, they panicked, improvised, and innovated. Their bizarre solution was to build guest rooms directly over the living reef, completely transforming global luxury tourism forever. Now, massive modern concrete blocks relentlessly dominate the pristine white sands of this fragile ecosystem. From above, you can clearly see how they aggressively re-engineered the shoreline, building gigantic artificial pools right next to the actual ocean. This sprawling complex slices through nature, creating a highly controlled, sanitized environment that effectively shields wealthy guests from the unpredictable, raw power of the wild. Inside the lobby, sacred indigenous culture is reduced to mere decorative wooden pillars. Staring out from this balcony over a massive infinity pool, you realize that nature is no longer an immersive experience here. It is just a pleasant, highly priced, distant backdrop. Paved pathways snake around modern hotel buildings, looking totally alien to traditional Polynesian open architecture. These multi-story concrete blocks overlook perfectly manicured lawns, deliberately erasing the native ecosystem to replace it with imported, visually pleasing exotic plant species. Everything in this garden is meticulously trimmed, pruned, and packaged for maximum visual comfort. Even this bright yellow church stands proudly as a glaring monument to Western religious conquest. A perfectly green lawn rolls right up to the edge of the artificially modified, rock-lined coastline. Tourists leisurely pedal tricycles, completely insulated inside their expensive artificial holiday bubble. These three-story concrete blocks hiding among the greenery expose the immense scale of this relentless commercial invasion. Rows of identical sunbeds wait patiently for privileged guests to consume the ocean view. Entering the wooden gate of a luxury bungalow feels exactly like stepping into an exclusive fortress. Look closely at these concrete pillars, violently drilled straight into the fragile living coral reef. This endless wooden walkway connects the floating bedrooms, completely dominating and shadowing the shallow waters, while expensive yachts anchor offshore, bringing even more demand to this delicate paradise. Walking down this massive wooden structure, you have to ask yourself, are we appreciating nature or just conquering it? Subscribe before this place convinces gravity to resign. These pandanus leaf roofs are just a beautiful, incredibly expensive illusion. Inside these luxury lobbies, the sacred wooden tiki statues stand completely powerless. They are reduced to silent decorative props. Stepping outside, you find a massive artificial lagoon built right next to the sea. Gliding across this perfectly calm, engineered water, you barely have to swim to see marine life. Small fish are conveniently brought directly to you. Colorful reef fish swarm around completely fake rocks. This giant infinity pool completely replaces the unpredictable and raw Pacific Ocean, waiting just outside, a dark shape safely contained in this comfortable bubble. In ancient times, the powerful Arii elites enforced strict conservation laws, called tapu and rahui. They strictly banned resource exploitation to preserve the delicate island ecosystem. But today, that ancient conservation concept has been completely twisted and monetized. Nature is now heavily privatized for exclusive enjoyment. Even this pristine white sand beach, gently sloping into the water, is entirely man-made. These vibrant butterfly fish are comfortably trapped here. They swim right up to the Intercontinental's thatched roof bar. It is a brilliant, highly profitable system. The wild ocean is completely sanitized and served on a silver platter for tourists. Guests relax safely in massive infinity pools, walking along heavily fortified stone walls that permanently keep the real waves out. This massive wooden bridge crosses an engineered lagoon, perfectly demonstrating how modern capitalism has successfully tamed the untamable. We literally buy the illusion of nature. Tourists lounge comfortably on perfectly aligned sunbeds, completely isolated from the harsh island reality. Underneath these imported palm umbrellas, the true island spirit slowly fades away. Looking out at those distant boats, the infinity edge creates a beautiful, highly deceptive optical illusion of an endless, perfectly safe ocean. But these carefully placed fake rocks in the calm lagoon tell a different story. Even the swim-up bars are submerged, perfectly blending alcohol consumption with a stunning golden sunset view. The water acts like a mirror, reflecting the massive concrete buildings hidden behind the imported trees. As the evening shadows fall over the massive infinity pool, the luxurious overwater bungalows stand completely still on the lagoon. Look at this massive floating mansion, It represents the absolute peak of modern territorial privatization in the Pacific, a quiet, artificial stream winding through a heavily manicured tropical fake forest. This large, traditional-style building is just another highly expensive piece of the grand simulation. Subscribe now if you think this artificial luxury is completely insane. Right outside these massive stone walls, reality hits hard. The contrast with the local public beach is truly shocking. Local people gather here, swimming over jagged, highly dangerous natural reefs under heavy, unpredictable clouds. Small tourist boats drift peacefully across this shallow, crystal-clear turquoise lagoon. A perfect heart-shaped strip of land miraculously emerges from the vibrant blue sea. From above, the sprawling network of overwater bungalows looks absolutely massive. The towering volcanic island stands proudly against the deep, unforgiving ocean backdrop. This is the legendary Tupai heart-shaped reef, but, look closely. It is completely surrounded by tourist boats, turning a natural wonder into a crowded pool. While crashing waves violently break against the reef, a solitary manta ray glides peacefully. Relentless ocean swells fiercely pound the jagged rocks. Tourist boats speeding through these shallow waters leave a surprisingly heavy ecological footprint behind, as luxurious resorts hide beneath the shadow of ancient, majestic volcanoes. The sheer volume of wealthy visitors is actively pushing this fragile marine ecosystem to its absolute breaking point. These wooden tentacles stretch endlessly across the pristine lagoon. The modern tourism industry relentlessly consumes the sacred whenua, turning raw, untouched nature into a highly priced packaged product. Like a giant wooden tree, this infrastructure dominates the seascape. But the worst collision between modern ambition and nature happened recently at the world-famous surfing spot, Teahupo'o. Where massive waves crash onto the reef, the Paris 2024 Olympics sparked an unprecedented environmental crisis. Organizers demanded a massive, modern aluminum judges tower. Just like these sprawling resorts, curving through the turquoise lagoon, the Olympic project required invasive construction. Instead of wooden pillars, they planned to drill heavy foundations directly into the living coral reef. Looking at this peaceful beach, it is hard to imagine the fierce local protests against heavy barges crushing the coral. This massive network of bungalows already shows our heavy footprint, but destroying the Teahupo'o reef carries a much deadlier consequence. As we view this isolated resort, surrounded by deep blue water, remember that crushing coral triggers the deadly spread of ciguatera. This powerful neurotoxin infects reef fish, completely destroying indigenous fishermen's livelihoods. Mount Otamanu watches silently as modern projects threaten local survival. These curving bungalows are beautiful, but they represent an overwhelming human footprint. Even a simple wooden hut here sits on heavily modified marine environments. From high above, this breathtaking, isolated atoll looks like an untouched, pristine paradise. But the harsh reality is a constant, bitter struggle between preserving the sacred ocean and relentlessly exploiting it for profit. The elegant curves of these luxury villas perfectly mask a ruthless commercialized system. Every wooden branch built over the water takes a heavy toll on nature. Luxury yachts anchor offshore, bringing wealthy tourists who demand absolute perfection. Speedboats tear through the fragile lagoon, violently disturbing the ancient underwater world. This massive, sprawling network of overwater rooms completely swallows the fragile, shallow reef. Subscribe to our channel if you want to uncover more shocking ecological truths. A colossal floating mansion sits aggressively on the delicate turquoise water. Loud jet skis violently rip through the silence of the tropical lagoon. The primordial volcanic peaks remain as silent, unyielding witnesses. Leaving the artificial lagoons completely behind, we finally confront the raw, untamed heart of whenua. These dark, jagged volcanic peaks pierce the sky like ancient, silent guardians. Following this winding river, you realize this dramatic landscape was forged by extreme violence. Around 860,000 years ago, a catastrophic landslide caused this massive shield volcano to completely collapse into the ocean. The sheer force of that geological disaster triggered an intense isostatic rebound, violently thrusting the island upwards by a staggering 110 meters, leaving behind a highly asymmetrical, rugged terrain. Walking past these isolated banana trees, you might think this lush nature is thriving perfectly. But this seemingly pristine green valley is actually fighting a losing battle against a deadly invader. Beneath the shadow of that distant cross, a terrifying botanical nightmare is rapidly spreading. This majestic waterfall provides abundant life, but an alien plant called Myconia weaponizes this very water. Introduced purely for its pretty leaves, known locally as the green cancer, it quickly escaped into the wild. Its massive purple leaves completely block the sunlight, mercilessly suffocating all native plants below. Worse, they collect this abundant tropical rain into incredibly heavy water drops. These giant drops fall like artillery shells, violently shattering the unprotected fragile topsoil. This intense kinetic energy causes severe landslides, washing rich volcanic earth straight away. While oblivious tourists happily bathe in these beautiful rock pools, the surrounding native ecosystem is quietly bleeding to death. Following the water down to the coast, we reach the vibrant local settlements. Here, the wealth gap is staggering, with living costs soaring 31% higher than in Europe. A brilliant rainbow arches over the neighborhoods, offering a fleeting moment of pure, tropical poetry. But the real, unfiltered heartbeat of modern Tahiti lies right here in bustling Papeete. Inside the iconic red steel market, fresh reef fish are proudly displayed. Mountains of vibrant tropical fruits showcase the island's incredible agricultural richness. This is where the indigenous Maohi culture meets the daily economic grind. Locals trade fresh produce, navigating a remarkably challenging economy. Beyond food, the market is a kaleidoscope of colorful, traditional Polynesian fabrics. Skilled artisans sell intricate crafts, woven from the versatile local pandanus leaves. Subscribe now if you love exploring these authentic, chaotic local island markets. Outside, paved pedestrian streets lined with imported palms and colorful lanterns paint a very modernized picture, a fascinating blend of wild nature and bustling urban life. Leaving the bustling markets behind, we return to the stunning blue coastline. These peaceful overwater bungalows look like the ultimate untouched tropical heaven. But hidden behind this luxurious wooden infrastructure lies a very bloody history. During the brutal French-Tahitian War, indigenous warriors fiercely fought the invading Marines. Queen Pomare IV was tragically forced into a heartbreaking long exile. These modern structures divide the water today. Locals once used the rugged terrain to launch relentless guerrilla attacks. Just like these violently crashing ocean waves, their indigenous resistance was fierce. However, the absolute most devastating colonial impact was not fought with ancient muskets. Wealthy tourists ride jet skis over the pristine water today. They remain completely unaware of a massive, dark nuclear legacy. A surfer rides a barreling wave, mastering the raw power of nature. As these surfers paddle out, they ride over a deeply poisoned ocean. While they perform incredible tricks, a dark nuclear secret hides below. During the Cold War, France conducted nearly 200 devastating nuclear tests. Waiting for waves, these surfers float above an invisible tragedy. Massive waves crash at Teahupo'o, surrounded by dozens of tiny tourist boats. But the real danger here is completely invisible to the naked eye. Today, French Polynesia suffers from extremely high thyroid cancer rates. It is a tragic consequence of severe radiation exposure from nearby atolls. Young locals joyfully plunge into the beautifully clear, green river below. Meanwhile, under this vibrant sunset, 15 kilograms of deadly plutonium are slowly leaking into the Pacific Ocean. As these female divers prepare their gear, we must uncover another dark truth. Descending into the deep blue, we remember the famous painter, Paul Gauguin. Swimming gracefully alongside a dolphin, we seek the pure, untouched tropical utopia. Gauguin claimed to paint this paradise, but his legacy hides disturbing realities. Like this peaceful sea turtle, indigenous women were treated as passive objects. Divers explore the vibrant reef, passing schools of small black fish. Gauguin ruthlessly exploited young local girls, stripping away their authentic voices. He sold his twisted fantasies to Paris. Swimming alongside these highly intelligent dolphins, we feel the incredible healing power. Like this silently patrolling reef shark, the local survival spirit remains fierce. Surrounded by vibrant blue fish, darting through the sunlit coral reef, the true resilience of whenua shines through the darkness. Subscribe to join us on this deep dive into the real Pacific. Flying high above this magnificent, sprawling coral atoll, we dive back into the deep, unforgiving blue ocean. The true resilient spirit of the Maohi people belongs here. Like this colossal humpback whale, gliding silently through the water, their indigenous heritage is incredibly massive and ancient. They were never the passive savages depicted in European paintings. They were fearless, brilliant ocean navigators. Today, while wealthy tourists joyfully kitesurf across the safe turquoise lagoon, the local population actively fights a modern battle. The pro-independence Tavini Huiradara party recently won. Floating comfortably in these warm, crystal-clear tropical waters is a luxurious privilege. But, this manta ray's freedom contrasts sharply with local political realities, as this magnificent creature elegantly flaps its giant wings. A strong political movement rapidly demands full autonomy. Exploring these mysterious underwater stone statues reminds us of a deeply buried, forgotten cultural heritage. With its mouth wide open, the giant manta effortlessly filters the rich, life-giving ocean currents. Tourists on paddleboards excitedly point out the exotic marine life below. Surrounded by vibrant butterfly fish, the illusion feels completely real. Free diving alongside these majestic creatures is an absolutely breathtaking, unforgettable experience. This sunken stone heart symbolizes the enduring love for their sacred whenua. Gliding effortlessly over the manta ray's massive dark wings, we witness a fragile harmony between humanity and wild nature. This giant, alien-looking blue coconut crab is a perfectly adapted rugged island survivor. Flying over the island again, the political landscape is shifting. As a brilliant golden sunset shines through these hanging decorative shells, divers swim near a silently patrolling reef shark. It represents the island's fierce, untamed soul. Suddenly, a massive, incredibly dangerous tiger shark glides over the sandy bottom. This terrifying apex predator commands absolute respect from every single reef fish. With a remora firmly attached to its back, the massive tiger shark approaches the divers. It perfectly embodies the raw, unyielding power and resilience of the true, ancient Polynesian warrior spirit. This dolphin's pure freedom sharply contrasts with a dark past. France conducted nearly 200 devastating nuclear tests in nearby Moruroa. Now locals fiercely demand justice for the terrifying radioactive fallout. Where these pristine, incredibly shallow sandbars meet the stunning turquoise lagoon, a highly exclusive, heavily manicured resort sits quietly on its own private, isolated oval island. From high above, the perfectly green lawns heavily contrast with the surrounding wild ocean. A tiny artificial channel flows through this incredibly expensive, manufactured paradise. As we finally fly away through the thick, fluffy white clouds, leaving this mesmerizing, deeply contradictory atoll behind, what sinister secrets is the next tropical paradise hiding? Subscribe now